All right, Emin, go ahead.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, we are really pleased to have all of you here in this final event on the asset project funded by European Union Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Program. I'm Emin Aliyev, Project Officer at EASE, European Association for Storage of Energy. Also very delighted to have here amazing partners in this project and stakeholders from various sectors such as industry, academia, research, including students and public sector. We know that the energy transition is here to stay, but challenges are multiple. Do we have the right skills for it? Do we know what new skills are needed and how to develop them? All these activities demand a significantly closer relationship between the industry, the academia, and authorities. Again, the challenge is very big and requires competences and multidisciplinary efforts. Asset 2-year project aimed to create a new ecosystem to enable this transition. It strengthened a process of constant research, innovation, and education in the energy field. It also delivered the platform, framework, and means for continuous collaboration among the actors. As EASE, we are proud to be part of this project in charge of the event as well, since the association aims to advance education, collaboration, knowledge, and proven frameworks about the benefits of energy storage, but also for whole energy system. I would like to congratulate our partners, esteemed experts, managers who made efforts to reach objectives without any delay despite these harsh COVID constraints. So today it's a good opportunity to see what has been achieved under the project, challenges, and sustainability in these harsh times. Now I would like to present you the agenda with topics and speakers. Claire, thank you. So after this will coming, we will have a keynote speech from Michaela Gigli from European Commission Climate Innovation and Networks Executive Agency. We will have next speech on transition without training from Lorenzo Pagliano, Polytechnic of Milan. We will present you the project overview and relevance. So this will be delivered by our project coordinator, Nadia from Atos, and Nelly from University of West Attica. Then relevance of topic will be done by Christina Papadimitriou from Pantera platform. The next speech will be on reducing the gap project results. So we talked about project outcomes. This will be done by our project partners, Mashud Nasir from Aalborg University. He will talk about collaboration between industry and academia, student mobility. Learning overview will be covered by Ferdinanda Ponci from Aachen University. Training the trainer will be delivered by Luisa Buta from Otea Academy. And some of you know that we delivered also 3 regional roadshows, and this will be covered by Sara Gollesi from Nostra. We will have then give the floor for Q&A moderated to our audience, moderated by Malena from Atos. After a short coffee break, we will jump on next topic, societal challenges in the energy sector, which will be done by Dario Minervini and Ivana Scotti from University of Naples. Sustainability topic will be delivered by Malena Cohen from Atos. Then again, we will leave the floor to the audience for question and answers. This will be facilitated by Malena. We will have a panel discussion at 12:05. We will cover a few topics, how COVID has structurally impacted the training offer, the pros and cons of digital learning, and of course, the sustainability aspects. The panel will be facilitated by Natalie Samovic from Asset Advisory Board, and our asset partners will also participate in this panel. Walter Cariani from Logical Soft and Sara Verberen from EcoPower. Asset Ambassador Francisco Jose Mora, we are delighted to have from University of Valencia. We have also a sister project from Smagrinet, and this time we will have Anneli Rose, and research representative Axel Tillman also will be in this panel. Then we will have concluding remarks, what's the next, and this will be done by the coordinator Nadia Polito and Nelly from University of West Attica. Again, thank you very much for attending this asset final event. I would like to leave the floor to my colleague Sabrina Mela, who managed this event, who will explain you a few technicalities to have safe event. So please, Sabrina, go ahead.
Thank you, Emin. So yes, from the technicality side, we're going to ask you to turn on your camera if possible, if you feel comfortable with it. To turn off your microphone while speakers are presenting, and use primarily the chat to ask questions. In the panel discussion, maybe we will be able to give the floor to you to ask questions in person, but primarily use the chat, please. And also feel free to write on the chat for any technical issues that you have. Before we start, I would like to suggest a poll so that we can break the ice a little bit. So we want to know, where are you all dialing from today? All right, we have many people voting. That's good. Very good. All right, a few more seconds for everyone to reply. All right. So what we have is that most people are dialing from home, from an improvised office. As I would say, it is normal. I'm from the office, and then some people are also dialing from home from an actual office, and a small percentage from an improvised study station. All right. So that's good. Claire, can you move on to the next slide, please? So we're happy to be joined today by Michela Gilli. She's our project officer, so she's the person who has been following us during these 2 years. So we're glad to have her here. Welcome, Michela, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we hear you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here today. And I'm really glad to see the dedicated coordinators team, people of the consortium, and yeah, a lot of participants in general. So I would like to extend my greetings on behalf of the European Commission, and in particular the executive agency where I work, that was responsible to oversee a project. I can say a couple of words on this. So I used to work at the Innovation and Networks Executive Agency, which has now a new mandate. So since the 1st of April, we are the big European climate, infrastructure and environmental executive agency. So we have new responsibilities for the management of funding programs in environment and climate and energy. And we have gathered under our roof, let's say, almost all programs at EU level in that fields. So we have now also the Innovation Fund, we have the LIFE program, the EMFF, and basically all of Cluster 5 of the Horizon Europe program. So this is a novelty. So again, thanks for having me joining in this important conference. ACID's journey started with a valuable purpose. As you know, in the past years, the EU has been giving progressively high attention to climate neutrality and the need for decarbonization, with various policies supporting this strategy to make Europe the first carbon neutral continent by 2050. Under the overall umbrella of the European Green Deal. Now, the energy transition, of course, in particular, a just transition, plays a great role in the Green Deal. And in order to get there, it is more and more recognized that we need a society-wide behavior shift towards sustainability. These measures have applied and will continue to apply concrete changes to all of our lives, of all Europeans. Now, the ACID project was funded or was created by the European Commission's DG for Research and Innovation under a specific call for proposals in the Horizon 2020 program that aim to address research, innovation, and education capacities to get society ready for the energy transition. And as many of you are aware, social sciences and humanities, and not only the technical aspects, but also human and behavioral aspects play an important role to prepare society for these changes needed to make the transition happen. So it is therefore important to have a space where all relevant stakeholders can discuss. And I think ACID has contributed with a big value in bringing together students, professors, researchers, industry, policymakers, local authorities, civil societies, and energy citizens to discuss how to improve education, research, and innovation. So ACID, in my opinion, has animated a so-called, you call it an ecosystem of energy stakeholders, with the goal to identify the needs of each target group when it comes to education for the energy transition, stressing the fact that all Europeans should be protagonists in the energy transitions, and they should have the right instruments at hand. Now, when it comes to the regulatory support offered by the European Union and the European Commission, it is important to stress that EU policy in the fields of education and training is designed to support action at the member state level. So member states, of course, ultimately remaining responsible for the implementation of single actions. So what the EU does is help address common challenges, such as aging societies, skills deficits, technological developments, and competition at the global level. Now, the main initiatives currently of the European Union are important in the field of education and skills for the energy transition. So we have, first of all, the university and higher education level, where Commission laid out in 2017 its vision for European education area, in which by 2025, the free move, that's already thanks to many Erasmus students that participated, exchanges of knowledge and know-how, fostering research opportunities and facilitating the training of academic staff. And now it's very interesting to note also that, as you know, the new revamped Erasmus is just now going to kick off. So it's a new program. And I think ACID has been quite a pioneer in this field, because you can see that even in the Erasmus program, the more inclusive digital and green agenda that you have recognized in ACID is now mirrored also in quality digital training and exchanges via different platform, encourage traineeships in the digital sectors, and they will have new formats such as blended intensive programs and short-term physical mobility abroad to be complemented with online learning. This program also full rollout of the European Student Card. It is greener as well, the program, so it will invest in projects promoting awareness of environmental issues and facilitate exchanges related to mitigating the climate crisis. And like I said, I think ACID has been on the same track and can also, of course, deliver valuable insights for the further development of EU-wide programs. So secondly, I would like to say a few words about training needs for the already active workforce. So last year, the Commission put forward an ambitious agenda to guide the COVID-19 recovery in the field of employment and social policy, with a focus on skills and vocational and educational training. So within the pillar of social rights, a European skills agenda has been released, containing the so-called Pact for Skills, an invitation to public and private organizations to join forces and take concrete action to upskill and reskill people in Europe. So this is one point, and another point is adult learning. I think where also ACID made a very significant contribution. So adult learning it's essential in order to keep the European labor force at all levels competitive. So thanks to a working group set up also last year, a network of national coordinators has been set up to promote adult learning in their countries, provide policy advice and support, and gather and disseminate best practices. So here they also created an electronic platform for adult learning in Europe that provides a multilingual online space to exchange, showcase, and promote best practices in adult education, as well as to promote peer learning. Now, the energy transition requires skills that need to be updated constantly. And that's why I think that projects such as ACID are very important for this, because you have identified the education needs for all important groups, and you provided a framework for the delivery of the needed knowledge and skills to cope with the energy transition. I also recognize that the COVID-19 pandemic brought a series of challenges along, and it has opened the floor for discussion on how education will change in the upcoming years. So back when you started in the beginning of 2019, we did not know anything about this, but I have to say that your work plan, ACID's online ecosystem, and solutions that you delivered in the end to adapt and capitalize on this crisis proved to be more than useful in these times where we reinvent the ways we learn. It has proven how the innovation from European projects can amount to something bigger than expected. So we did not know what the future had in stock, but I think it's fair to say that ACID was ready for it. It is important to exploit solutions given by European projects to the challenges faced by society, something that bridges the European institutions to the population. So ACID and other projects responding to this call for proposal on research, innovation, and education capacities for the energy transition has shown that the energy system of tomorrow needs to have STEM subjects, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, working hand in hand with social sciences and humanities delivering what is needed to improve research, innovation, and education for the energy transition in Europe. And with this, I come to an end. Again, I would like to thank all of you, especially, of course, the entire consortium for delivering a very important project that lays a crucial basis to actually deliver the energy transition that we all talk about. So thank you very much for all your dedication and your ability to be creative and also to adapt to the COVID crisis and learn from it and come out of it stronger. And I would like to say a special thanks also to Asset Partner East for delivering some background facts for my intervention today, especially in the field of education. I'm looking forward to an interesting morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michaela, for your speech to open this event. From our side, I would say that the consortium thanks you very much for following the project in these years. So thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope that you can stay with us until the end. So now we're opening the floor to Lorenzo Pagliano, who is responsible for the RIDEF Master of the Polytechnic University of Milan. So he has been involved in ASSET in these years. And Lorenzo, the floor is yours for the opening speech on Transitioning Without Training, a Call for Action.
Okay, thank you very much for this invitation. I hope you can hear me, and I try, try to share the screen. I guess that's what I should do. Desktop 1. Okay, and go to the presentation, hopefully.
It's working.
Okay, which is not, because it was not in the beginning. Okay, we are at the beginning, I hope. Tell me if you can hear me and see the slides. Okay, good. So again, good morning to everyone. Thank you for the invitation and for the work. I will try to follow one of the keywords that the officer has just presented, this need of exploiting at best the informations that can come from science and the information that we can have from the sociological field, from the humanities. So I have a few ideas to share with you coming from the experience in the master, the experience in the teaching to international students in an international course of advanced building physics, and from European projects that I will try to mention, because those are really important in finding needs. So we need that so we need to have professionals and citizens who have specialized competence, but also a very broad view of what the problems are that we are facing. And I would say then we need, again, in our experience, even in European projects, sometimes it's difficult to communicate among members of the consortium because of the need of a common nomenclature, common, well-consolidated, sharp concepts. And I will give some examples. Sometimes we need to forget sophistication when it is too much and go straight to orders of magnitude, or to a clear definition of the problem rather than a overabundant infrastructure of technical sophistication. Sometimes we need a lot of technical sophistication, sometimes not, and it's important to recognize a more effective way in addressing the problem and in teaching about those. So based on this experience, I have the impression that we really need a sort of emergency plan for training, both in the private and public sector. We are speeding up. Hopefully we are speeding up because there is a need to really quickly address the reduction of emissions. And I see a number of signs that the project also has found of difficulty for people in the field to speed up and to have enough skills to deliver what the state-of-the-art solutions to the problems. So I have the impression that when we allocate funds for building retrofit, for installation of renewables, for changing our cities, a good amount of that money should go this way. And there should be a sort of rule to always have in parallel the financing of the action and the financing of the training for the people who have to deploy that action. But I try to give some examples. So this need of and I don't know, I see the chat also, but I guess you see my slides on, right?
Yes, we are seeing the slides. Perfect.
Okay, good. So this global view of the framework where we are, so the need for a complete view of what's going on. We are obviously progressing in a spectacular way with renewables, but at the same time, total energy use continues to grow. So in fact, in the last 20 years, the net result has been adding renewables and fossil rather than substituting fossil with renewables, if we look at the world globally. So this need of having the two sides, reducing the final use of energy so that renewables can really substitute a relevant part is these two elements that we need to have. This scenario where people can go later tell us that we need really to, at the same time, generate renewables and have a strong reduction. This scenario is minus 30% compared to what we consume now in 50% in 2050. So it's an enormous effort, and we are, we are slow with this effort. We had a carbon budget of 360 gigatons of CO2 estimated in 2011 to keep under the 1.5%. And is incredible. And as the officer was mentioning, this could be done probably acting on various aspects, both the greening of the supply, power here. These are data from the International Energy Agency, the scenario to 2050. Really, the scenario of zero emissions to 2050, this is what they forecast to be needed and possible to 2030. And we see that there is greening of power, there is efficiency in end users, and there is these behavioral changes, which for the first time appear explicitly in the scenario. Obviously, behavior change enabled by physical and regulatory infrastructure. To use a bike, we need a safe way in the city to use the bike. We need infrastructure. We need a redesign that opens up our cities and the possibility to open the buildings for natural ventilation. There will be a chapter of the IPCC that will deal on behavior. I'm one of the reviewers. So we need to put together, again, science and social mobilization. Okay, there are a number of things in this scenario which seem to be really low tech, involving people adapting the thermostats, drying laundry online, cycling and walking more, which are all things that we can do if we prepare an infrastructure, both physical and cultural, and of training for people to do these things well. So there is a lot of technical things that we know how to do well, like insulation of buildings with a lot of details for the thermal bridges, for solar protections, for advanced windows. I want to show just an example of a retrofit we did within a European project with Google, and we are continuing to exploit in Sato for the controls of this building. So these are social housing where we did thermal insulation, external thermal insulation, and a lot of details for the thermal bridges using various insulation technologies with an extremely low thermal conductivity where needed. Obviously, more costly, but for small surfaces, recovery of heat, on ventilation. And the final result is that in these projects, we have reduced by 90% the energy needs for heating and cooling, from 170 to 17, more or less. And this parameter, here I come to the nomenclature. We, in a project called AZAB, we prepared, for example, a video and a number of deliverables on these fundamental concepts of energy needs, delivered energy, total primary energy, non-renewable primary energy, which are, let's say, the essential nomenclature to discuss within a project or with professionals to really understand what is the objective and how we can start from making extremely good the building fabric and have these very low energy needs. And then the remaining energy can be delivered locally with renewables and integrate and controls. So, but here I just want to point out of this difficulty of having a common language, even on this simple definition of zero energy. There are different implementation in different member states, different nomenclature. It's extremely important that we try to get to a common, okay, and I think my time is running away, so I have to. So I point out a few things. One to me is standards in this common nomenclature should be widely available. And for example, standards, in my view, should be free to all. While now we have these beautiful standards which have been developed also on the wake of the recast of the EPBD, but these are still a very costly source of information. So in some way we have to make them more known and more available. And in the standards, also comfort standards, there's been great changes in the EN standards, in the American standards, for example, ASHRAE standard on comfort, where now air velocity is clearly included as a key variable of summer comfort. It wasn't till a few years ago, not so clearly as a design parameter. Humidity explicitly recognizes not a key parameter, a very low influence parameter in summer. But again, all these information that are now available in the standards, ready to use for designers, to me are not yet diffused at the right level and intensity. There are a number of other things that we can do, and we're labeling. Again, we lab to diffuse information, prepare people. And I come to the holistic view with the last two slides, and then I stop. There is also all the issue of how important is reducing energy needs in order to have the right amount of renewables and the right amount of infrastructure so that we take care of the landscape, we take care of the land. So this issue of looking at our technological solutions within the space we have, within the other uses, agriculture, simply landscape use. This is a study from the German needs. And so we have to play probably and prepare, as we are trying to do in the master reader, people who have both very narrow and deep technical knowledge, but also a large view of what are the areas where we can work. We can increase the efficiency of motors, but we can change the way we move in cities. And there have been big changes during the COVID. So there is a paper recently released on how big has been the increase of low energy mobility of biking and walking during the crisis, and which will remain thanks to the new infrastructures. So that's what I was saying at the beginning, and just recall it here. And I would like to thank the effort of the European Union. The European projects are really helping us to both go deeper in technical knowledge and to do communication, diffusion, training, and clarifying the concept. So I will close with this and with the hope that we can continue to make even better use of this possibility that the European Union creates of a European space where knowledge and training are part of the solution to our big problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorenzo. This was a very interesting food for thought to start the day that we have ahead. So now, Claire, if you can go back to sharing the screen. Now we're going to start the first block of presentations. So first, we're going to talk about assessing the needs that we have in terms of education and training for energy transition. And in this block, we'll be having Nadia and Nelly, who are project coordinators, our double N. And then we will move on with the presentation from Cristina Papadimitriou from the Pantera platform to talk about the relevance of the topics that ACID tackles. So Nadia and Nelly, the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning from me. Okay, I will give you an overview of the project first, and then Nelly will continue with a bit more details.
My side as well.
So if you can move on the, yes. So ACID project comes from a holistic and scalable solution for research, innovation, and education in the energy transition. Of course, it's a project funded by the European Commission under the Horizon 2020 program. It's a coordination and support action which started back in May 2019 and is finalizing this month. So it's formed by 11 partners from 6 European Union countries, which is Spain, Italy, Belgium, Denmark, Germany, and Greece. Next slide, please. So, what's our motivation and challenge behind ACID? Europe is transitioning towards a low-carbon society. Over the coming years, the growing energy sector requires many employees to be educated, trained, or reskilled, but also new talent who can cope and of course, conduct the energy transition. So in order to lead this transformation, Europe must upskill the staff with multidisciplinary competencies, going beyond separate technologies for low carbon importance, and continue and intensify research liaised with industry in order to promote innovation. Also, a closer industry-academia relationship is needed due to the volume and the diversity of the audience. The fact that the new talents and competencies have to be built very fast for European Union actors to catch the energy transition hype, and to introduce interdisciplinarity in the university programs, since this is not the focus of the current programs. What's the scope? The scope of asset project is to deliver the framework and the tools to create and share knowledge, competencies, and the skills that are needed for the energy transition. So our main features are to provide education which is free and open to everyone globally, to be multidisciplinary and holistic, since we cover diverse and interdisciplinary topics from energy transition and social sciences and humanities disciplines, to be flexible and on demand, adapted to its target group, and based on a collaborative approach, bringing together also academia to industry. So our offering at the high level, we have a community that involves the main energy transition actors, such as companies, training program providers, policymakers, the citizens. Also to bring a conceptual framework to speed up the creation of the learning programs through the so-called learning graph tool, which we will show you a bit more details later. To provide innovative and multidisciplinary learning programs to train students, workers, trainers, and the citizens as a whole. To promote the interdisciplinarity in research, innovation, and education services, of course, combining social sciences and humanities disciplines. Strengthen the collaboration between academia and industry through a tool that we have and we call a marketplace, which we will show you again later. And of course, support the teachers and trainers through the Train the Trainers workshops, which again, we will tell you a bit more in a presentation later on. So from my side, this is it. I'll give the floor now to Nelly.
So for this purpose, to achieve all our objectives, we have created the community. You can see here how you can join our community through our website. And we have different offerings for each group of actors in this community. So if we go group by group, so please, let's go to the next slide. We have for the industry sector, the marketplace tool. I will explain you now in the next slide how this is performing. We have for the training providers, also the marketplace tool for them to reach the industry. And we also have for the tutors, the learning graph tool that helps them create new programs easily and with high quality. Let's see each one of them very quickly. So what we are offering to the industry, as the previous speech was saying, we need to address a mass need for new for training on new technologies and on new systems and on new nomenclature, more or less. So we have created a marketplace with a set, of course, of courses. Each training provider can announce the course, and then the industry partners can search for appropriate programs. But what happens if they don't find these programs? If they find the program, they can enroll, but if they don't find, they can place an inquiry. And in this case, why come to Asset and not to a training provider directly? Because in Asset community, we have training program providers that are currently universities of high excellence and well recognized around Europe, and training providers from the private sector also specialized in this sector. This approach that the company comes in the community and places an inquiry, and then a training provider offers to create this program, is now piloted. We have already offered 2 on-demand courses, and the results are very encouraging. But why do this through Asset? The thing is that through Asset, you have access to excellent training providers which can offer high quality courses because we give them additional tools. If now we go to the training providers to see why they are prompted to join our community, the first thing we offer them is the opportunity to advertise their educational programs and reach a wider audience. For example, without Asset Marketplace, OTE Academy would never offer a course to an SME from the UK as was achieved during the program, or RWTH from Germany to an Italian DSO. Second, the educational providers can inspect the inquiries and thus reach the industry. Third, and not less important, the universities and training actors can stay in touch with the industry. This means that they can observe what the industry needs, and that they can align their curricula. This is very important because to do it through a market search is not so evident and not so easy to do for us at the universities. Additionally, we have another set of offerings, which is the learning materials that we can reuse, the learning structure, how to organize a course that we can be inspired from how another colleague has done this. And so we can start not from scratch, but for something really valuable, and the learning materials and from other disciplines. For example, I wanted to ignite some and cultivate some transversal skills to my students. I contacted RWTH and that had prepared a similar course. I invited my students to attend this in a MOOC form, and then I had a lecture from RWTH in my audience. This way, although I'm not an expert in SSH, it was very easy for me to contact an expert and have a high quality part in my integrated in my lesson. And now if we go furthermore, for tutors, this is the structure that we have decided to adopt for modeling our courses. We split the learning topics in learning outcomes and learning materials. I will not go into the detail. This model was published in the Social Sciences Journal of Springer, and this model has been used in our tool. Can you click, Claire? You can see here how it looks like. It is an easy tool to use where we can search for course structures and learning materials. Next slide, please. This way, first of all, we have defined a valid and replicable learning model. This has been confirmed by people outside the consortium in a workshop that we organized in ITS 2020. This was also confirmed by other workshops that were organized in Spain and in Denmark, and we're compiling the results from them. And it seems that using our tools, the educational provider can build a new program, saving time more than 25%. Additionally, the tool was found easy to use. You can see the scores now. And another very important aspect was the multidisciplinary program creation. that was significantly facilitated through our learning model and our community. If we now go to what we offer for citizens, because up to now we have talked mainly about professionals, we have offered 16 massive open online courses in the first wave, which was in 2020. The massive open online courses are still available and will be available for the next years. As you can see in the graph, the majority of the people ranked really high the experience they had through the use of EMA platform offered by University of Naples and the courses that the consortium as a whole produced. In a second wave, we added two more courses which were targeting the citizens. These courses were talking to citizens about how energy transition can be easily understood, and this course is now being piloted with the first group of citizens. Additionally, we have the forum, that there is a place where the community can discuss on several topics. The forum was prepared by Aalborg University, and I will not go into the detail. Here you can see the programs that we offer. What I would like to stress is that we have 3 sets of technical courses and 1 bigger set of courses covering SSH, Social Sciences and Humanities. The important thing to stress here is that based on this mix of courses, we are able to create 5 interdisciplinary courses. You will see more on the results of them in the talk of our colleagues. And 2 courses for the trainers. What we realized is that trainers and professors usually underestimate the fact that to engage students is not an easy thing to do. You have to be aware that there are specific practices that you need to put in place. And second, if I'm not expert in how to cultivate transversal skills in our students and trainees in general, I have to learn how to do this, because this is what people want out there. So we may go now to the next slide. For the academia and mobility interconnection, we had Aalborg University guiding us in this, as it is really excellent in this aspect. We had invited lectures, we had joint courses with the industry, and a joint master thesis and PhD. And the important thing to stress here is that we realized that this need for mass education and upskilling is not only about energy transition. We found out that this need is also valid and holds in the Industry 5 sector and in many other sectors. So what we did for the energy transition here in ASSET is applicable to other sectors as well. So if we move to the next slide. So to conclude, if you're a company or a professional and you need to train yourself or your people, if you're a citizen and want to know more about energy transition, if you're looking for scientists, or if you are a tutor and want to prepare and design a new program, ASSET can help you do this fast and with high quality. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nelly. Thank you, Nadia. I think you are definitely the best people to present the project. So thank you very much for a clear presentation. And now we're going to move on with our external guest, I would say, Christina Papadimitriou from the Pantera AIRE platform. She will tell me how to pronounce it correctly. But Christina, the floor is yours. We're very happy to have you with us, talking about the relevance of education for energy transition.
Okay, I was muted. Sorry about that. Thank you very much for having me here today. Um, I cannot start sharing my screen unless you allow me to do so. Okay, great. So you should see my screen now. I'm really happy to be here with you in the Asset Final event. I'm the Vice Coordinator of the Pantera project, and I'm a postdoc fellow with FOSS and University of Cyprus. I will go through the Pantera project and what is going to offer to the RNI community, and then talk about our collaboration with ASSET that we are really happy about. So the Pantera project is actually a coordination and support action. It has started almost 2 years ago, and we have 2 more to run. We are a consortium of 9 different partners, institutions, and universities scattered around Europe. Having many activities under the main objective of the Pantera project. Having said that, the main objective of this project is to try to leverage smart grid investments and try to build trust among RNI community on smart grids, because actually the different countries in Europe do not have the same level of participation in this kind of innovation, in this kind of investment. So all activities under the Pantera project is actually focusing on doing that, on fetching an equilibrium among the different countries. And to do so, the major outcome would be the multifunctional collaborative platform that it's called ERI. And actually this name is coming straight from the Directorate of General of Energy, as I'll explain in the next. But while we are building this collaborative platform that will be online, actually it will be on and live within 1 month from now, we need and we aimed to build only one reference operational point in order to unify all the activity coming from the RNI community, to incentivize further investments in smart grids and actually provide this equilibrium and support the countries that have left behind, and support access to exploitable results, to data, information, knowledge that we have spotted that not all countries have the same access to all this valuable information. And this way, the collaboration will be boosted among the different countries coming from different backgrounds and bridge the existing gaps. And we are targeting to a long-term solidarity. When we have accredited with this Pantera project, the main trigger and the main yes objective of ours was to build something that would be really sustainable for sharing results and knowledge. And this is how we came up with the ERI interactive to be hosted under the Smart Energy System Service of JRC. This is really important for us because we're having the guaranteed support by the GNR. This is how the ERI platform is coming also as a name, is coming straight from the GNR. And they have issued a dedicated service contract to take over from the Pantera Consortium when the project will be completed. This is what sustainability will be guaranteed by. So what you can see from the figure here is that this platform will be actually through the servers of JRC as platforms that are well known and try to build a really intertwined interrelation that will allow to the other platforms and to the ERI to exchange data and knowledge. And you can see that we're having on board the ERANETs with Expira platform, we're having BRIDS, ETIPSNet, and others that have international dimension like Mission Innovation, ISGAN Arena, etc. And of course, standards is really critical. The Smart Grids map and platform is also connected with our platform. What are the benefits for using the ERI platform? Because the ERI platform is actually embracing all the RNI community, all the different type of stakeholders in order to have easy access to viable data and information and act in order to find consortium, collaboration, knowledge, or even training and educational material, as will be shown in the next. It will be a central point for collaborating issues, and at the same time, because this is an interactive platform, it will host functionalities and tools that will be in the serve of the European policy services. And I will be more detailed in the next. I won't go through details on the ERI platform because I hope that within 1 month that will be up, you will be engaged and have a look by yourself. But you can see here the high level principles of designing this platform. So we are having 3 different distinguished areas: the data area, the information area, and the knowledge area. And what is really important is that the data area is given to a structured, coherent way to the RNI community in order to be exploitable. And then the information area provides a really powerful search tool and connect the dots between the data, the information, and of course the knowledge, because by exploiting the information and the data through the functionalities and the tools of this platform, we're coming to the knowledge. This knowledge is quite critical because it will give analytics, it will give actually the quantification of the RNI needs, the gap analysis, and not only focused in European policy, but actually focusing on the RNI needs, connected and linked with the energy transition 2030 and 2050 targets. And then there comes the collaboration with the asset project, because I was talking about the collaboration we're having with the already established platforms and initiatives that are really important. But what is also important, and it's really, really good that we have found our ways to collaborate, is this Asset Pantera collaboration about the education training material that will be hosted within ERI. Also having mutual benefits for both projects and for the RNI community as a whole. First of all, the educational material and all the training material and all these services that Nelly and Nadia have mentioned before is really important for the RNI community. And when we have put together all the different aspects that we wanted to capture through the Pantera project, the educational arm was really, really important in order to succeed this energy transition, in order to succeed this support of the countries that have left behind. And what is really important in order not only to secure the sustainability, but also the adaptability of this knowledge provision through the Asset and Pantera collaboration is to link this content with the actual needs of the RNI community. And I will show you how in this graphical design, in a high level, of course. What is a request from the EC is that we need to quantify the needs for the RNI community, the needs for the technology advancement. What would be the steps forward in order to build that, but not in a qualitative way, that it was built like this before through, for example, the ETIPSnet implementation plan or roadmap. We need indexes, we need quantification. So hearing this request, the ERI platform is developing a tool to identify these indexes, these maturity indexes about the advancement of the needed technologies that would serve the functionalities of the future grid. This is really important for the education material that will be hosted, because the education is going to have a leading role in contributing to this advancement of the technologies and in order to enable the energy transition. Having said that, actually the education and the content coming from ASET, and we hope that this will be the first cooperation, and many more that is education related will come up in the next, is that through the innovation needs, you can directly link them with the educational needs, adapt them and blend them in order to provide a new enriching knowledge that will give actually the feedback to the indexes of the maturity and to the maturity of the functionalities per se, the maturity of the system. This is how the energy transition and the ETIPSnet and the Commission targets will be enabled and will be succeeded. What would be the next steps in education? What would be the next steps of collaboration between these two projects that we aim to have and to build in a sustainable future for the next? We need to make sure that this content, this training material, and this collaboration should be inclusive, and we should respond to the degraded grid needs. We're not only focusing in the electricity, we're not only focusing on just a few technologies, but as already pointed out by our colleagues of ASET, we're having also some other cross-cutting issues, and we need to be inclusive with that. So ASET had made a really good job in initiating this process. We need to be flexible and adaptive to include not only the state of the art, but the newly appeared trends. So we need to be directly linked to the maturity of the technologies of the system. And of course, to be connected with the present, providing a bridge to the future. So thank you very much for your attention. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. I can take them. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Christina. This was very interesting. ASET has tried to collaborate with what we call sister projects throughout our duration. So it's great that a project like the Pantera platform exists, because also project doesn't end after the after its funding period is over. But it's very important to continue building up on the knowledge that that was created. So thank you a lot. I hope you can stay with us for the rest of the event. And now I'm going to ask my colleague Claire to go back to sharing our slide flow, because now we will get a bit more into the details of the achievements of the project and our results. So we'll have 4 presentations. The first one being by Mashoud Nasir, whom I now give the floor to. So Mashoud, I believe that you would like to share your slides yourself, correct?
Yes, please.
All right, so the floor is yours and the slides as well.
Okay, so you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the title for this presentation is Industry Academia Dialogue, and we will be particularly focused towards mobility support mechanisms. So as Nelly and Nadia, they mentioned in the previous talk that one of the key objectives of ASET is to foster the relationship between industry and academia. And one way to achieve it is through mobility support mechanisms. So why we need and what are the objectives of this mobility mechanisms? The main idea behind is bridging the gap between industry and academia, cultivation of new talents with multidisciplinary competencies, since it requires efforts from multiple fields and multiple disciplines and also multiple sectors. So industry and academia, they need to come close to each other, and mobility support mechanisms, they actually support this in a sustainable way. Also for the energy transition, we need to upskill the energy sector staff and bring in synchronism the academia with the industry, so that both are working in the same direction. This is how we discussed that in how mobility support mechanisms can actually help us achieving these objectives. So how we achieved it during our project? So first of all, we selected some effective mobility mechanisms that partners, both industry and academic partners, they are employing, and found them effective. Then based upon the selection of key mechanisms, we agreed upon the contributions from different partners, industry and academic partners. They contributed towards some pilot implementations, and then based upon those pilot implementations, we evaluated their findings in order to identify the best practices, possible barriers, and recommendations for the future implementation of mobility mechanisms. So I will go through all of these steps one by one, what we have achieved during these 2 years of the project. So first of all, the first step was to select the mobility mechanism. So based upon some desk research, and then based upon the data collected from our partners, based on the frequency and effectiveness, we selected these 5 mechanisms, which includes industrial researchers as lecturers to the universities, then collaborative bachelor's and master's thesis, collaborative doctoral education, student internships, and industry and joint projects. So here we collect the data from the partners, and then based upon this, we define these 5 mechanisms. Initially, we planned that we will implement these mechanisms based upon the contributions from individual partners. And here we set some KPIs that in total we will be able to achieve at least 5 industrial researchers as lecturers. We will be able to proceed with 10 bachelor's master thesis. So these are the pilot implementations that we initially planned, but due to the COVID and other restrictions, the plans are certainly changed due to some mobility restrictions. However, we have been able to achieve more than what we initially targeted, and here are the results of some of the key pilot implementations. So once these implementations these have been proceeded, the next step is the evaluation of these proceedings. So we selected both qualitative and quantitative evaluation. For the quantitative evaluation, we selected we did this evaluation on base of the Likert scale. Surveys have been distributed to the contributing partners, and contributing partners, they responded to these fields. For example, what was the motive to start the mobility mechanisms? So these 2 are pre-phase mechanisms. What are the tips for establishing the mobility frame and network? Then during the mobility, what is the mechanism employed for monitoring and evaluation? And then some post mobility findings. What are the key success factors for the implementation? What are the potential barriers faced? And what are the key learning points? So idea behind all these pilot implementation is actually to draw the guidelines that can support for future mobility implementations in an effective way. So here are some key results that we found based upon our evaluation and pilot implementations. Firstly, for industrial researchers as lecturers, here you can see that the main motive that we found is to share the knowledge between university and industry participants. What is the effective mechanism to implement this type of mobility mechanisms, and based upon the findings, short duration lectures and workshop from 1 to 3 days, this has been ranked as the most effective way to implement this mechanism by the industry and academic partners. And then some of the potential barriers that were highlighted, and among them is the unavailability of expert industry researchers. So interlinking and networking platforms are suggested as a recommendation to match with the needed experts. Similarly, for the second type of mechanism, which is collaborative bachelor's and master's thesis, here you can see the main motive is to find the innovative solutions, taking both perspectives, industrial as well as academic perspective, into consideration. And we've based upon the implementation experience of the partners, working in the shared and dual facilities has been found the most effective way to implement this mechanism. And in order to establish this, reaching out to the corporate partners with whom you are going with whom you are making some projects, this is the most effective and the fast way to establish this mechanism. Thirdly, I will talk about collaborative doctoral education. So this is the main motive is to research conducted by the PhD students is of industrial relevance. Doctoral students are better prepared for employment outside academia, and then the main need, as we discussed, is to align academic research with the industry needs. So this is ranked as the the motives, the most important motives behind the implementation of these mechanisms. Again, working in shared and dual facilities, dual desks approach has been found the most effective, where participant can work some of the time in industry and the other time in the university. And the main barriers there here is the management of intellectual property rights and mechanism for its implementation. And based upon our experience with this implementation, training of the doctoral students for IPR management and implementation is suggested to overcome this barrier. Last but not the least, these are university student internships in the industry. So the most effective mechanism behind the most effective way to implement this mechanism is found through the internship at the end of the degree program. And what we recommend that this can be there can be dedicated or optional credit hours which allows students to go for internships, so that they can take into account the perspective of the industry. And the main motive here is to mutual knowledge sharing and sharing industry practices and perspective, also to motivate students to join industry after their completion of their degrees. The main barriers that we have found here is that systematic support for matchmaking between the available position and the student is missing. And we recommend dedicated departmental or university-wide career office to overcome this barrier. With respect to joint industry and academia projects, here you can see again the reaching out to corporate partners has been found the most effective way to establish this mechanism, while difference of the work culture between industry and academia has been found as one of the biggest barrier, and also the unavailability of networking platforms. So we suggest Erasmus EU programs and networking engines that can provide effective interlinking to commence such projects. So based upon these pilot implementations, these recommendations have been drawn and they have been detailed in one of the final deliverables. You can see the further details on this in our final deliverable D1.4. Based upon all this discussion, we can draw the conclusion that mobility support mechanisms offer a sustainable interlink between industry and academia. Following the guidelines drawn on the basis of ISET pilot implementation, effectiveness of the future mobility plans can be enhanced and energy transition process can be accelerated. Thank you. So I will stop sharing my screen here.
Thank you very much, Mashoud. I now give the word to Ferdinanda Ponci. There you are, Ferdinanda. All right, now we will have your slides on screen very soon.
Thank you. I can start anticipating that I will present the materials that have been developed in ASSET. And this is the core of the really reusable stuff that has been already tried out also in ASSET for reuse, and that of course is also available for later reuse. So I'll give you an idea of the size of what was developed, what the work in ASSET has produced, and which categories it has benefited or is benefiting, and how it covers the knowledge, skills, and competencies. So here we see what are the ASSET teaching goals. First goal to cover these knowledge, skills, and competences needs. A study was done in ASSET to identify them in the energy transition area. And so the materials in ASSET were developed to cover these KSCs. Then another requirement for the material is that it is reusable. Tools are reusable and materials should be reusable. Then the idea is to go beyond the traditional university courses, which are offered face-to-face with an instructor and based on very classical material. Also, ASSET aims to foster interdisciplinarity, which means facilitating the integration of interdisciplinary content in courses. And finally, ASSET also aims at train the trainers, which means make the instructors and the teachers ready for the mission of teaching with the type of material and in the type of ecosystem that ASSET has created. Next slide, please. So in these figures, you can see the size of the material that was produced. First of all, we have categorized the learning material in groups, and you can see here smart and flexible energy systems, energy storage, renewable energy, SSH and cross-cutting themes, and train the trainers. So within these groups, we have produced, first of all, 29 learning topics. When we talk about learning topics, we basically talk about the topic of the courses. And you can see here the distribution with energy storage and smart and flexible energy systems being the biggest portions. Then we have formulated 165 learning outcomes. So you have seen, as Nelly has presented before, the learning graph concept based on which the material of ASSET was developed. So in the work of developing the material, we have instantiated the learning graphs for all the courses, and we have produced 165 learning outcomes. This is what the distribution reflects that of the learning topics. And then we have produced 467 learning materials, and these learning materials consist of video lectures, lecture slides, exercises, simulations, and all that is actually practically used in the courses. Next slide, please. All right, so all this material actually covers the KSCs that were identified in the project. So here you can see group by group of the course contents, to what extent it covers the KSCs. And I would say that this is pretty satisfactory. So the material that ASET has produced covers the range of KSCs. Next slide, please. So we can go quickly over this one because and next one, please. There must be some animation here. So this is the learning graph that Nelly has presented before. So for each learning topic, we have identified learning outcomes, and for each learning outcomes, we have identified learning material. This means that each course has a set of learning outcomes, and this is one example. So this is the example of measurement technique course. The learning outcomes are formulated, and for each learning outcome, there is a group of learning materials. This implies that it is possible to go into this graph and pick one learning outcome that the user, trainer, or learner is interested in, and identify easily what learning materials are available. Next slide, please. So the practical way of doing it is through the Learning Graph tool for tutors. So the tutor here can find the material that is already available for the purpose of reuse. Next one. And next again. So next, thanks. So this is the list of programs that ASET has created and offered. This includes, as you can see, the groups that we talked about earlier with all the titles of the courses. On top of these courses, ASET has also developed 5 interdisciplinary courses, 2 programs specifically designed for citizens as non-specialists, and next one, also on-demand courses, 2 on-demand programs. Nelly has talked about the use of the tools to look for interesting content and to look for existing offers. In case there are no existing offers, then the learner can request an on-demand course. So 2 such programs were developed. Next one, please. All right. Now, in terms of number of the learning materials, you can see here a list of the types of learning materials, as I was listing it before. So this partition here gives you an idea of the weight of each component, and it is a broad selection of types which are suitable for the type of programs. Notice that there are in ASET 13 short programs, and these short programs have been actually including blended learning, case-based learning, and other forms of learning. So they are not just traditional university courses. Many of them are full semester courses. Then we have 5 seminars, 19 MOOCs, 5 interdisciplinary courses, and then the 2 on demand and the 2 programs specifically for citizens. Next one, please. All right, the second wave of a total 19 MOOCs, which includes all the more technical MOOCs plus the 2 specifically for citizens, is active in 2021. Next one, please. And this is the environment for the on-demand courses. The way in which the on-demand courses were developed was using the marketplace tools, and asking industrial partners to use the tool to identify learning objectives that they were interested in. After they have completed their, let's say, request, the materials which were already available thanks to the reusability of what was developed before were collected, integrated, and the courses, the two on-demand courses were offered. The two programs specifically for citizens and targeting non-specialists are, next one please. Yes, thank you. Are the Energy Transition Made Simple for Citizens, which is already running, and the technologies behind the energy transition, which will kick off soon at the end of the month. All right, so all in all, the asset educational offer we have verified and we have designed it for it. It covers the KSCs that have been identified in asset. It embraces multiple fields that are involved in the energy transition. Thanks to the integration of SSH and more classically engineering topics. It fosters the design of new programs via the learning graph concepts. We have seen that it is possible to build programs based on the formulation of the outcomes, of the learning outcomes, and the reuse of the material. It integrates modern teaching approaches, as we have verified, so it is possible, and the material covers that opportunity to use MOOCs within classical courses or MOOCs themselves or other forms of blended learning or special types of learning. And also the material in asset is oriented to the broader energy community. So it targets students, of course, but it also targets industry, as we have seen, especially with on-demand courses. It targets citizens with dedicated programs, and it targets trainers themselves with the two train-the-trainer programs. Thank you. This is it.
Thank you, Ferdinanda. Thank you very much. I now give the word to Luisa, who will be presenting the Train the Trainers module, which is very interesting.
Yes, I would like to share my screen, please, if that's possible.
Yes.
Okay. So, hello everyone, I'm Luisa Buta. I'm from the training department of OTE Academy, and I will talk to you about the Train the Trainers we delivered during the 2 years of the ASSET project. So yes, we delivered two Train the Trainer workshops, and those two workshops had two different main goals. So the main objective for the first workshop was to improve ways to engage the audience. Whereas the second workshop had the goal to ignite the students' interest in socioeconomic disciplines besides their technical topics they usually study. So what, let's have a look at the bigger picture of the first Train the Trainers workshop. It was delivered on the 15th and 16th of January 2020, last year, before the world changed forever. It was right after the General Assembly meeting of the ASSET Consortium here in Athens. So it was held at the premises of OT Academy. We had 1 instructor and 22 participants. The topics that were discussed were, on the one hand, the specific characteristics of adult training, as well as techniques on how to develop a successful training that accommodates those needs. Moreover, useful techniques for audience communication and audience management were discussed. On the second day, the participants had the chance to deliver a micro-teaching session In order to receive further feedback from the instructor and the fellow participants, these sessions were also videotaped by OT Academy and handed to the participants for further self-study. The main target group of the main target audience of those trainers were the university professors and instructors within the ASSET Consortium. So the main key takeaways for them were, firstly, that they learned concrete ways to engage their audience, but also that there are techniques that can help them cultivate the soft skills and interdisciplinary thinking in their students, the skills that are essential for the realization of the energy transition. The feedback that we received was very positive. So we have put together some of the feedback we received. It was very interesting and a very useful event. Many thanks for your hospitality. We have learned a lot these days. It has been a great experience with interesting content and an engaging environment. The training in itself was amazing and full of learning, very nice words. So we want to share some pictures with you so that you can have a bit better idea of what was going on. So here you can see our instructor trainer, Mr. Nikos Ayotis, who delivered this training. Of course, in adult trainings, it's very important to have some interactive exercises. So that's what you can see here. We were split in two groups and discussing and working on the different topics. Here you can see during a break the participants in the auditorium. So yeah, let's have a look now at the second Train the Trainer. Yeah, the second workshop, the initial idea was to organize another face-to-face workshop similar to the first one, which unfortunately was not possible due to the current situation. So it was delivered on the 3rd of February this year, virtually via Zoom. The workshop structure and design were different to the first one, as here we had 5 speakers and 25 participants. The speakers were from the different asset members of the consortium, so that we had the chance to explore different socio-economic disciplines. We had Dr. Ana de la Varga from RWTH Aachen University. She spoke to us about the responsibility in research and innovation. We had Walter Cariani from Logical Soft, who explained to us the skills and competences that are needed in the energy transition. I had the chance to deep dive into the innovation processes in the energy sector. We had Professor Konstantinos Psamopoulos from University of West Attica, who explained to us the importance of energy efficient and ecological design of products and equipment. And of course, we had also Professor Fabio Corbisiero from University of Naples, who spoke to us about the gender perspectives in energy transition. At the end of the workshop, the participants had the chance to reflect on what they heard and on how they can incorporate the new findings into their current curricula. So, sorry, actually the two key takeaways of the virtual Train the Trainer workshop were that firstly, by including seeds of knowledge from learning content on socio-economic disciplines and their basic principles, the students' interest in these aspects will definitely be ignited. As the workshop was advertised on various social media channels throughout the ASSET Consortium, it was noticed with great interest that there were many registrations from outside the circle of ASSET Consortium members, for example, from companies of the insurance and telecommunications sector, as well as ministerial offices. The feedback we received was very positive. We would like to share with you some scores of this feedback on a scale from 1 to 6. 5.45 out of 6 was the score that it was useful for their job. The participants found it offered them a new way of thinking and dealing with their everyday work. 5.11 out of 6. The conduction of the online training via the platform was satisfactory. 5.56 out of 6. And the final question, if they would recommend this online workshop to a friend or a colleague, the net promoter score on a scale from -100 to +100 was 56, which is also very satisfactory. So here you will see a few screenshots of this virtual event. So happy faces, smiling faces on the group photo of this event. So yes, as a conclusion, the key takeaways from the overall process are that the trainers from academia and industry feel the need to engage new techniques in order to cultivate the soft skills and interdisciplinary thinking in their audiences. The trainers that were the attendees of the workshops find interest in a variety of topics, and they feel the need to widen their understanding of other disciplines. And the instructors, especially of the second workshop, were positively surprised by the interest of the audience in their topic, as they are usually focusing on their own area and are not open to other areas or disciplines, and a fact that is essential for the realization of the energy transition. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Luisa. Thank you very, very much. Now, last but not least, I'll give the word to Sara, who will be presenting our roadshows, which for those of you who don't know, we held 3 roadshows, one in Italy, one in Madrid, and one in Brussels, though of course it was online, and she'll be presenting them to you.
Okay, thanks. Good morning to everyone. I'm here representing Enostra, which within the Asset Consortium was not an education or training actor, but we are a cooperative, so we represent citizens. Yes, please go to the next slide. I will give you some words about the asset community. Nadia and Nelly already mentioned it. How we drafted a public outreach strategy to set up this community and to engage the people in the community. And the roadshows were one of the tools we selected to engage people and to collect input from the audience. Please, the next slide. Okay. So the asset community, we decided to set up a sort of ecosystem, a community within this project, because the scope was to put together all the energy transition actors and stakeholders, basically the education and training actors, but also the people who comes from the industry sector, or also students, or also different kind of stakeholder categories. What was the aim? To create a community, to share resources, but also to share the needs. So to use the help of the other members of the community to better understand, to spot which were the needs in the training and educational sector. The tool we set up to create this community was a public outreach strategy. So first of all, we started with the identification of the stakeholders and an analysis of their needs and expectation from this kind of project. So we made some questionnaires and interviews. Then we developed the strategy and implemented it, of course. And the roadshows were one of the main tools of this engagement strategy. And since we are at the end, now we are in the phase of monitoring and evaluating the effects of this outreach strategy. Please, the next slide. Okay, this is just to give you an idea of which were the main target groups why we identified. And for each of these group, we identify also a keywords for which sum up, which explain better which is the what they are looking for, let's say, in this energy transition process, so that we can somehow better identify their needs and what they can offer. So the demand and the supply, of course, the market also in the energy, in the educational sector. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so as I was saying, the roadshows were one of the tools we selected to engage these actors within our community and within our project overall. The objective of these roadshows were to meet the people, the different actors, to strengthen the network, to identify some different actors that were not clearly involved at the beginning of the process, to expand the community, of course, to create also links between the different stakeholder groups, and to explain, to showcase somehow all these stakeholders the benefits of participating in our project and ecosystem. As we were saying, we decided to organize 3 different events, one in Italy, one in Spain, that were more, let's say, at national level, so involving national stakeholders, and the last one in Belgium, virtually, let's say, which was focused more on European level policymakers and the industry representative. You can see at the bottom of the page the lifespan of the project. And as you can see, the 2 first roadshows were organized in the first half of the project because we wanted mainly to get inputs from the stakeholders. And the last one was at 3/4 of the project, because we also wanted to showcase the stakeholders what was done in the project in the first half part of the project. Next slide, please. Here you have some description of each roadshow. The one in Italy, you can see Lorenzo Pagliano here in this picture. He was involved since the beginning. And yes, there are some information about how we organized them. We decided to split people in sessions in all the 3 roadshows, because we wanted really to have an interaction between the different stakeholders, so that they can explain their point of view, discuss, and the first 2 roadshows were, since they were national level, they were organized in the national language. So also to ease for people the possibility to express themselves better than in English, for example. And in the green box at the end of each page, you can find out which were the main takeaways, as we were saying before, or outcomes of these events. For example, for the event in Milan, in Italy, what came clearly out is the need of mediators, which is a new professional profile that for energy transition is very relevant, because you have to find a compromise among very different needs, among different point of views. So of course, to find facilitators and mediators that can help this process, it's a need of the sector, and it could be really a new professional profile. Next slide, please. This is the roadshow organized in Spain. Here again, we have not a big number of people, but it was on invitation mainly, these events, because as I was saying, we wanted to involve people really working on the energy transition process, and that could bring on the table valuable contributions. And we organized also here a co-creation session to foster these exchange and discussion. And the main interesting outcomes here were also the need of upskill. For example, there are for traditional engineers profile, there are the need to upskill them with software skill, the big data or artificial intelligence, which are of course hot topics of energy transition process. Next slide, please. The last one, the online one, as you can see from the picture. Yeah, the roadshow in Spain was organized in February. It was really in time, because it was really the last weeks that people could meet face to face. Okay, the third roadshow was organized online, and here again we had two sessions, as you can see. And as Mashoud was saying before, one of the main interesting outcomes here was about the confidentiality, which is sometimes a barrier to foster the collaboration between industry and academia. But some other interesting outputs of this roadshow, of this event, was the need to help small and medium enterprises to participate in research and development projects. For example, one of the tips coming from the public was a sort of a national level mechanism of tax reduction, so that they can invest this money in research activities. And of course, the last tips about gender equality. We recently organized an event, online event, on the participation of women in the energy transition. You can find all the details and also the recording of the event on our website. Gender is still something that at policy level should be addressed. Next slide here, just to conclude, a picture of what is our community at the moment. We have reached at the beginning of April 300 members. You have a list on the left of the countries where our members come from. You can see they come from all over the world, I would say. Each continent is represented somehow. In bold, you can see that, of course, the majority of members comes from the European countries where we have our members of the consortium: Belgium, Denmark, Greece, Germany, Italy, and Spain, of course. But we have some people coming also from India, for example. As for gender, of course, as I was saying, we have to push more on the participation of women and in this community and overall in the energy transition process. If we go on the age group, we can see that they are spread quite well in the middle of the target age groups. And regarding the stakeholder groups, as you can see at the bottom of the page, the research and education target group is the more represented ones, of course. And yeah, I would say that's all. If you want to find out more information about our roadshows, the outcomes, the PowerPoint presentation, who was taking part in these events, you can go on our website and you can find more information or drop me an email. Thanks.
Thank you, Sara. It's interesting to see the geographic representation of the community. I mean, it's important to tackle diversity and also with gender. It's not the first presentation that brings up this topic, and we will hear more about it with our colleagues from UNINA. So, as a lady working in a European funded project on energy transition, I think it's quite important. And I give the word to another lady who is Malena. She'll be moderating the Q&A. So I don't see many questions in chat, but
thank you, Sabrina. Thank you for giving me the floor. I want to raise a question, even though it's has been answered already in the chat. So maybe one of the speakers want to comment on this is Natalie from EUREC. She's asking us, what are the key AC needs that we have detected during the project? So what are the needs, the competencies, the skill, the knowledge that are needed according to our studies and our findings? I don't know who wants to go for answering that. Maybe Nelly or maybe Ferdi. Do you want to answer?
Yes, well, we had a survey in the first 6 months. The survey was done by LogicalSoft, and the reports can be found in a public deliverable we have in the website of the project. If you want me, so I have already put the link in the chat box. But if you want a rough answer, is that the report shows that not so technical, purely in the renewables or in other technologies are so much needed. In terms of where they are needed, they are found, but a broader understanding of technologies is needed. ICT skills remain in need, which came as a surprise to me. I expect that this is already established. And of course, transversal skills, which means communication, broader understanding of the society to design appropriate services. And for this reason, I put in the chat also the link to the internal reports provided by University of Naples that performed the survey across different countries. And it was shown that companies feel that their employees should have a better understanding of what's happening overall, not only in the technology sector.
Okay, thank you, Nelly. I don't know if there are more questions. You can place them in the chat. If not, I think we are in very good timing. It's only 7 minutes delay. So Sabrina, I give you the floor to you back, if you agree.
Yes, thank you, Malena. Yes, so now it would be our coffee break time. Originally, we were supposed to be back at 11:30, but of course, we'll delay it a bit. So we will be back, I would say, at 11:35. And if you're back a few minutes earlier, you'll be able to see an asset video that we released this week. So see you at 11:35 again. Thank you.
ASSET offers educational programs that combine energy transition technologies with social sciences and humanities disciplines. Its mission is to massively educate not only the professionals in the field, but also the citizens. ASSET offers a set of tools to help educators accelerate the creation of new learning modules, fostering collaboration between academia and industry.
Yes, the project was one of the policy actions for the European Commission in order to close the gap in skill and knowledge in energy transition. With over 20 courses and thousands of students enrolled in courses, the ASSET MOOC is leading the educational offer in energy transition in Europe, and with open, free, accessible courses on the EMA platform. Students, university students, teachers, managers, energy workers are already enrolled in our courses.
For learning program designers, ASSET offers the Learning Graph tool, a web-based tool to facilitate sharing of program structures and materials. This way, we save time during program creation, which can exceed 25% as estimated by external experts.
The ASSET Marketplace is the meeting point where those that desire to be trained meet those that offer the trainings. Currently, a set of learning programs relevant to the energy transition are available from training actors across the EU. For those that are interested in something that is not already in the list, they can place an inquiry and a training actor, university or other, will soon contact them in order to agree on the program to be developed.
All right, so we are back at 11:36. Now we move on to a third block of presentations. Now we're going to hear about the societal challenges in the energy sector. So our partners from Unina will be presenting a little bit of their work, and it's going to be very interesting. So please, Dario and Ivano, I give the floor to you.
Thank you. And so I suppose I can share my screen. If I can, actually.
Yes, you can.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, I suppose you can see my screen, actually.
Yes, all is working fine.
Okay, good. Okay, so thanks for this presentation, and also let me remind all the team of the Unina, so the Professoressa Rosana De Rosa, Anna Maria Zaccaria, and also Fabio Corbisiero and Enzo Allegro, but also Elena Musolino, Laria Marotta, and Anna Antonia Murola. So I and Dario will present in short the main results of this part of this research. And so let's start. This presentation will be divided in two. So Dario will conclude this presentation and I'm start. So In this presentation, we present the research timing database, and three elements are the prefigurative energy future according to a stakeholder perspective. So some aspect related to knowledge they think is very important to promote the energy transition, and a relevant aspect correlated to the education and professional trainings, and also relation with territories and gender issues. So the first aspect is that two questions, these are main questions that we pose in our research. It's which are the actors' perception and expectation on the ongoing energy transition, and also which kind of knowledge and skill and competence they consider important to promote the implementation of the energy transition. And the database is divided in two, in a quantitative part with a survey and a qualitative one. So focus groups and in-depth interview. So you can see here few elements of this databases. So what emerged about the prefigurative energy future? The first aspect is that according to the stakeholder, so the next future, 5-10 years more or less, will be characterized by the small-scale distributed system and management system like smart grid. And also the urgent priority, as you can see, is not only the CO2 reduction, but to more socially shared the energy production and to improve regulation models to promote not only the energy transition, but also to promote economic and job opportunities at local level. Other elements is that what is emerged, it's that the forthcoming system should be smart and energy green communities should represent the main novelty. And in this interview that we quote, you can see that emerged the idea of involvement on society, democratic aspect, the elements of freedom, because the energy transition is strictly related for our stakeholder to democratic elements and also freedom as value. Another aspect that is currently with this prefigurative futures, also they consider that not only citizen, but in large part university and public research center will be very important because they are strictly related to promote socio-technical innovation and participatory processes. And in fact, the relevant aspect about the manufacturing sector or policing, etc., are relevant but are secondary in our research. And if you take in consideration what kind of skills or knowledges they consider real important, in this table you see that traditional knowledges like engineering technologies are very important for different kinds of sectors. And even the soft skills, there are some innovation, even in hard and soft skills, you can see some innovation because first of all, some aspects are the adaptability, communication skills, but also the possibility to control data from with information and communication technology or network analyzing, etc. Particularly, it's interesting to consider project development and energy transitional project as a sector, because our stakeholder mainly consider that engineers and technological field should be improved with social science and management skills. And also you have that communication is important because in this part of this research, we analyze and we observe that participation, the way to communicate to stakeholders, to citizens, will be important to promote the energy transition and in local contexts. Also, this is clear in the qualitative part of the research that technical engineer and economical managerial competence are important, but transition workers, is a novel term, needs to acquire social and communication skills. So it means that interdisciplinarity, it's important.
Oops.
We have lost Ivano.
We lost Ivano, no?
Yes.
The elements of dialogue between different speakers, different actors are so relevant for that.
Ivano, we lost you for like 30 seconds. Can you go back a little bit?
Yep. Okay. Here.
Yeah, I think.
Can you hear us, Ivano?
Yeah.
Yes, we have just lost a couple of sentences. So, yeah. Are you freeze it again?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, maybe
Yes.
if you take out the video, Ivano, if you maybe that consume less resources and.
Okay, I will try.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, here we go. So we were here, I suppose.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. So in this part, I would like also to stress that technical engineering and economic management competences are important for the energy transition, but also transitional workers need to acquire social and communication skill, as you can see in this quotation of the qualitative interview, because the interdisciplinarity is an element very important for our stakeholders, and training should be oriented toward a dialogue, they say, through speaker different languages. So technical languages, different local interests, and so on. And it's transition worker ability to connect subject. In fact, in next slide, so professional profile should be able to face new challenges of the energy transition because they are the translator of interests and policies. So as you can see, even in this part of these interviews, so qualitative interviews, they said that there is a lack of translation experience when people from different fields can communicate with each other. Getting social scientists and engineers to communicate is not easy. It will be important to create people who facilitate this meeting. So again, that's facilitator, communication skill, and so on. And in a second last quoting, so I remain strongly attached to the vision in which we must not lose the depth of our own disciplines, knowledge of the method, and must instead work more on the connection, again, between figures with different backgrounds, who must build up a capacity for scientific and project-related relations. So in this configuration, in these pictures, you have to consider that educational and training impact, for of course, university are the main resource of education supporting the energy transition, and technical aspect characterize the university. Instead, in the learning on job, so it means in companies, the skills should be very important: management skill, social skill, ethical aspect, and also genders, because I suppose that the main aspect is that in the university, we imagine that we have to acquire all technical elements, despite we have to add some social and communication aspect. But for companies, it should be very important to be in contact with customers, with local communities, and with other elements that are very ethical-oriented aspects. Also, you can see that the strong traditional discipline field needs to be reorganized for a large part of our sample. And they also think that multidisciplinarity, that they consider very important, it's also, so it's very important to acquire multidisciplinarity, but it's a little bit difficult to practice the interdisciplinarity. So it means that it's important, we have to do that. It's very important for our work to enhance the energy transition, but also there is something that is difficult to do. So stakeholder and actors involved in the research. And I suppose this is the part when Dario can.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you very much, Ivano. So the first part of the presentation was devoted basically to the main question of the research, that was about new skills, new competencies, and new practices to unfold this kind of novelties in the field of energy transition. Of course, we are sociologists, so we had just a little bit more attention also to the issue that put together territories and community needs in relation to energy transition and the innovation in terms of skills and competencies. What our research shows is that many stakeholders and in general actors involved in our research stressed this kind of asynchronous or intermittent dynamic that connect the various levels of energy governance. In other terms, they stress how difficult it is to coordinate the different levels of the regulation that foster energy transition. So this means that there are difficulties to connect the local experiences with the national framework and regulation, and at the same time the consistency between the supranational, so the European level of regulation, the national level of regulation, and the actual local experiences need to be, how to say, better coordinated. This means that in the accounts that we have retraced during our research, we can see a sort of overlapping between the discourses about this kind of problems about multi-level governance, but at the same time, there is also a great emphasis about the need of a democratic arrangement of the energy transition. This means that if we can't imagine a better system that can enhance the dialogue between among the different level of governance, we are not so effective in promoting this kind of democratic model of energy transition. Sometimes local experiences still seems disconnected from, you know, the big picture and the main general framework. And this comes out from the research. The next one. So what does this mean in terms of competencies and new skills? If we consider that institutions are, generally speaking, but also from the research, considered the main actors that have to foster the common good, in this case is of course, the energy transition, a low carbon society. So if we consider that institutions have to support this kind of process throughout the social trust, we understand very well that knowledge about how social trust works is very, very important. This is not simply a matter of communication, is not simply a matter of public engagement. It's a matter of understanding how a local context works. So we suggest that more attention is needed in order to help institutions to improve their capacity to understand territories and communities. Is not so. What we are saying is that is not enough to better communicate our strategies, is not enough to educate people to a better behavior in energy transition, but we need also those competencies that comes also from social sciences that helps institution to understand how social network works, how social trust is enacted, and how relational networks in general terms are structured in a local context. This is a very important point in order to strengthen the institutional trust as well. The next one. Now this argument about gender. We know that framework both at national and international level are more and more emphasizing this kind of issue in their documents. The gender issue is a relevant topic, is a growing relevant topic. Of course, very often gender issue is something that is not problematized in the field of energy because energy is not considered gendered. Gender is something without, energy is something without a gender specific. But of course, we know from social sciences that gender and energy are both social constructed processes and projects in a sense. So what we retrace from the research is that energy is assumed as a naturally neutral, but this kind of neutrality argument is very dangerous because very often this means that gender is underestimated. Moreover, we have retraced that policies used to frame the role of women and to depict women in a very passive role, in a very how to say, in the shape of a weakness. Indeed, gender is associated with energy poverty, exclusion, rural experiments. You know, we are not talking about female leaders. We are talking about women that need to be helped in order to improve their presence in the energy transition. This perspective says us that we have this kind of, you know, sort of relegation of the female part of the story in a very, very, how to say, in a very weak position in the overall system. At the same time, women seems to be associated very often to this kind of narration about fair and sustainable energy system. In other terms, women are more close to the decentered model, to the local empowerment. Of course, this recalls us the main general argument about caring communities. So women are more close to this kind of caring and constructing networks at local level in order to foster energy transition, while men are more associated to the very modernist and mainstream way to improve the transition, for example, with big facilities or with a very rational way to organize the transition in itself. Of course, this kind of results sounds very stereotypied because we know that very often we have this distinction between women and care and reproduction, men, production and rationality. This sounds a little bit, you know, to confirm a sort of stereotype in the social construction of a gendered vision of energy transition. The next one. These are the empirical evidence of what we are saying. Gender diversity is considered not so relevant for our respondents. So it seems that gender is not an issue about what we are dealing with. The next one. If we look here at this slide, we can see again that gender aspects are still not the most relevant issue on which we have to deal with, and that at the same time, if we look at the qualitative research, there is a very interesting quote here. I'm familiar with the vice dean of the university here. He told me that the only thing they can do to increase the number of women in technical faculties is to include and emphasize social aspect. For example, for agricultural engineering, they just need to change the name into bioengineering. And all at once, the women come because there was bio in the word, and it was the same curriculum. So, of course, words are important, but it's just a matter of labeling. What we need is definitely a cultural improvement of the gender issue. And this is why we need more effort to put gender programs, gender educational programs within our courses in order to better address this kind of social construction of gender division and gender imbalance in terms of power. The next one. Okay, so we can try to sum up our conclusion about this a very short overview about our research. We can say that what emerges that from the perspective of our ecosystem that was asked to explicitate their point of view about the two main questions at the beginning of the presentation we presented. Well, we have this kind of general scenario. First of all, what is expected in the future is the unfolding of a small, decentralized, democratic, inclusive, distributive, that means fair, and smart, that means in terms of technologies, model of energy transition. This looks a little bit ideological in a sense. What seems to emerge is that we need an energy transition that is a little bit more close to the territories. Then we have this relevant priority attributed to university and public agencies in order to lead this kind of process. We have the confirmation of the relevance of established skills that are basically those from STEM, but of course novelties from social science and humanities are welcomed. But we have to stress that while established competencies are pragmatic, in very pragmatical terms are confirmed, about social science and humanities we retrace a sort of, you know, I would say rhetoric, but a little bit not in a negative sense. We need to work a little bit more in order to combine this kind of multidisciplinarity. Indeed, interdisciplinarity that is constantly claimed is a very challenging option, because we have to, in a way, unfold a strategy to put together vocabularies and at the same time put together people in order to work in practice with their epistemological differences. This is a very, very difficult challenge. Institutions have to learn to analyze their own territories in terms of how they work, in terms of social relations, social trust, yes, in terms of networks in general. And finally, we have this point about gender that is still formally claimed, growing formally claimed, but actually not addressed enough. Indeed, it is not considered at the end a relevant priority in educational system, but sometimes also for the educational system. So we have to work on this. Yes, this is the general conclusion of our work. Thank you.
So thank you, Dario and Ivano. I can take the floor if you can share the screen, Claire. This is my next presentation. I hope you have questions. You can post them in the chat as before. So I'll be sharing with you our plans for sustainability and what we have in the asset ecosystem, although most of our work has been presented greatly by all the speakers. So next slide, please. This is the content of my presentation, what is the ecosystem, what we have, our value proposition in somehow for the different stakeholders or how we approach to them. Then how we approach to sustainability, all this immense work from all of us, how we are bringing assets to the next level. I'll be sharing with you our plans, and then also some hints for you, what you can take from now after this event, what will be available for all of you. So next slide, please. So as you've seen, we have created the Energy Transition Academy, this ecosystem, these training units, all the courses, all the educational programs, and thanks to the different universities and different partners. if you enter the asset community that we invite you to join, of course, a part of being a part of this community, you can get all the courses and you are able to purchase a certificate from now on. And for us, creating all this ecosystem was very important to understand the needs of all the different stakeholders, for universities, policymakers, authorities, students, market regulators, as you've seen by the presentation done by Mahood about the, we try to bridge the gap between the academia and the industry and the policy makers and the public institutions. So hopefully the courses that you will find are a variety enough for you to really learn the new skills that are needed for this greener world, let's say. So next slide, please. So the sustainability strategy as such, we had different workshops, presence workshop, online workshops with all the colleagues, with all the asset partners, and we were like brainstorming in the best ways to make this sustainable for those that have been around in European projects. You know, it's very difficult to maintain the project's results over time. And for us, was since the beginning, we were working hard to make this happen. And we are very proud of today of saying, okay, yes, we achieved it. Yes? Sorry? I thought someone wanted to say something. No? Okay, maybe it's an open micro. So the asset outcomes are available, will be available over time. We're very proud of that, as I was saying. And for our offering will be ready from now for over the years, as I will show in the next slide. So if you can go next, please. So this has some animations, although my colleagues, you can run the animations, no problem. Although my colleague Nelly has presented this, again, for those that are that want to join the community, join the forum, this is the way you can log in and you can enroll and you can join our community, and of course tell the rest. Yes, you can move forward. You can move forward. Excellent. It was only like a link to a reminder. So what we did internally, these are examples of how we will maintain the system and what is our compromise. What we did is that we run a survey, internal survey with all the asset partners, the 11 partners, and these are some of the content that we will produce and maintain over time. So, for example, University of West Attica and Naples, a part of maintaining the courses, they are exploring maybe to provide new content. As you know, EMMA platform is hosted by the Naples University. Then we from Atos, Widotea Academy and University of West Attica, we will maintain the marketplace and then the learning graph tools. At the same time, the different universities that were engaged in the project will search for different educational mobility agreements and different put in place different mobility mechanisms and share the best practices, as was presented by my colleague Mahood from the Aalborg University or from Bracken University, of course, Naples University and West Attica and University of Valencia. So these are some examples of the kind of agreements we are looking for and how we will evolve, maintain the 22 courses that we have integrated up to this point, and then feeding the marketplace and the platform with more content. So for us, this is the final event, but for us, really, this is the beginning. Not the end. It's an opening a new door. So we invite you to stay tuned and to be part of our community for updates. So we can go to the next slide, please. This is, of course, it's not possible without the cooperation, the great cooperation of all the different networks that and partners that contributed to have good cooperation with all these stakeholders. Just to name a few, we have more. As Christina from the University of Cyprus was presenting before, the cooperation with Pantera AIRI platform for us is a big achievement, because they are starting. The project is starting just now. So for us, we put asset in the center, and for us it's very important that also we were able to present to the Bridge community members our work, invite them to join to the different events. Of course, EMA platform, it's a big umbrella for us. It's European. It has more than 80,000 students enrolled so far. So for us, it's not only a project that lasts for 2 years, but a whole, we like born within an ecosystem, and we like feed that ecosystem that is around us. Of course, the Italian INEA agency, they are also supporting us. Comet, Smart Grenades, Phoenix, different projects that on the go, and of course the European Commission, big support to all the work that we did, providing very good recommendations as we were also developing the content and knocking the doors for cooperation. So you can go to the next slide. Of course, for this, all of us, these are again asset in the middle, and these are the asset partners. You've seen them in the earlier presentations, but I think it's important that all of us in different levels have a compromise to continue the community and to support the asset. Learning ecosystem for maintaining it over years, which is very important. Without the support of all of this wouldn't be possible. So we can go to the next slide. What's for you? This is free for you. All the courses for this year will be available without cost for all of you. It's open to anyone. Anyone can enroll in the courses. You can even ask us for new courses that you think are needed. So you are able to interact with us. We offer, as my colleague said before, we offer different learning content in the energy transition, but beyond the typical courses provided by the universities. It's easy to use, it's simple, intuitive. You can log into the EMA platform. Apart of having, of course, the asset courses, there is plenty of courses over there, and it's flexible. And as I was saying a minute ago, so you can really place you on demand. You can ask us for a specific training option or training needs, let's say. So for us, being fresh, being in contact with all of you that are in the field work is very important. This is why all the sociologists, all the explorative work we did, talking and knocking the door in universities, policymakers, and different industry, of course, different institutions, for us to be fresh, for us to be close to what's going on in a real world, not to be from an academic perspective, with all my respect, not from far from what are the needs of the Europeans in terms of energy transition needs. So this is it for you. So we can go for the next slide. We will have everything for 1 year. As I was saying before, all the courses will be available on EMA platform for the next 5 years for sure. You can purchase a certificate by paying 80 euros per certificate. You can enroll in the courses. It's optional. You can do the course fully. The full content will be available, and you can pay if you want the certificate. If not, it's okay. You will receive the same content, but this is an option for students. And the community will be up and running. The offering, the tools, as we were saying before, will be everything ready for people to enroll. So the next slide, and we are reaching almost the end. The Eire Pantera, the Eire platform, Eire Pantera platform cooperation was a big success for us, as I was saying before, because they will have funding for the next 7 years. It's a project that just began, that my colleague Cristina presented in the morning slot. So the asset learning offer is already migrated there. It's available there, and we hope to maintain it over time for at least 7 years. And of course, thanks to the EMA platform, that it's been around for many, many years, that now is reaching 80,000 students, and it has a lot of impact at European level, and also the courses will be available there. So this is what we have so far. That you can go to the next slide. This is now it's very social. No, you can follow us, join. Of course, when you enroll to this event, you had this information ready, but it's important for you to keep this in your minds and follow us. And we are also posting some tweets, so feel free to retweet and follow us, and as I said, make comments. And I wanted to also share here where you can make an inquiry, so where you can place requests for us. So you are welcome to contact us. This down there, this is the link, a part of all our social networks. And this is my last slide. So thank you. So you can go to the next one, Claire. And this is my email in case you want to drop me an email, and again the social media accounts for you to enjoy and join us. So I don't know if there are questions or comments here. Let me see. I'm opening the chat here. So if there are no questions, I can give the floor to my next colleagues. I want to leave some silence space. So the next slot is the panel discussion. I guess Walter Karani and Sarah Berdin from Logical Soft and EcoPower, respectively, you can take the floor.
Thank you, Malena. Now, yes, I will give the floor to Natalie Samovic, who will be the moderator of the panel discussion, and she will present all of the panelists joining us.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear and see me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for introduction. It's been an interesting journey, and that's how I view the asset journey as a journey. So there was an excellent progress, and thank you so much for being part of it as an advisor for the project. Today it was very interesting to see the progress and the advancement. And in this panel, we would like to the focus on the future outlook of what's beyond, and this is something that already Milena alluded to. Hence, without further delay, I would like to mention why I'm here. So I'm with Enerco and beyond our own journey in the within the energy transition, dual energy transition on the digital side as well as on the generation side. I'm chairing working group for energy on at the European Alliance of IoT Innovation, and as well as some other colleagues that are present today that I recognize, also contributing my expertise as a chair of working group one on grids at TIPSNet. Let me present the panel who's going to be here with me today. So there are 5 of us, and as I mentioned, we're going to focus on the future topics. So I have Sarah Verbeeren with me today. Do we have Sarah on?
Yes, you hear me?
Okay. Hello, Sarah. So Sarah works at EcoPower, and she's a renewable energy project leader. She focuses both on wind and solar resources. And of course, within the context of asset, also she's focusing on educating citizens on the importance of the renewable energies. Hello, Sarah, and welcome. So I also have Walter Cariani with me. Walter, are you ready? with us today? Yes. Hello, hello, Walter. I can see you, but I cannot hear you yet.
Now
great.
perhaps you can hear me.
Yes, now I can hear you. So Walter works at Logical Soft, and he's an energy expert as well, with participation in research, design, and development within the international programs, and also is active in the promotion of energy technologies. In addition, so these are the two partners of the project, but we also have external experts. And let me introduce Francisco Jose Mora. Francisco, I see you're with us already. Hello.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Pleasure.
So he's asset ambassador. So he's been also on this journey with the Asset Consortium. He's rector of the Polytechnic University of Valencia. And his specialization is electronic engineering. And in addition to that, we have two more experts, external experts. So let me introduce Annelie Roos. Annelie, hello.
Hello.
Welcome. So Annelie is a senior consultant at Civita Estonia, and she's team member of SmagriNet project. Welcome, Annelie. And the last panelist, but not least, is Axel Tillman. Axel,
Hello.
are you already with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, 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 we can hear you, but cannot see you yet. Let me introduce you. So Axel is the head of Competence Center of Emerging Technologies, and he leads the task force Education and Skills in the battery sector, and colleague within the EU ATIP platform. So welcome everyone. As I mentioned, we will focus on the future today. There are a number of questions still, I think, left, although the consortium did not leave any stones unturned in all the facets of the educational topics on energy transition. But I think there are still a couple more that we can address in the panel. So let me start with the questions right away. I think we will engage all the panelists. You're also welcome to leave additional questions that we might not address in the chat. So let me start with the first question, which is focused on digital learning challenges. We all went through the period, which is still not over, of the pandemic, which actually accelerated in many ways a lot of facets. So let me ask the following. What are the pros and cons of the digital learning in research and education? And are there any lessons learned during the last year period? And I would like to address this question to Francisco first.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to this meeting, this conference. I'm very pleased to share with you some reflections. It's true that with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic worldwide, any sort of distinctions in our lives were erased. No? We were learning, working, teaching, and living in the same space. So this made big changes in education, and I think that after this period, this 1 year, I have to say that at least in universities, I can check that face-to-face and distant education emerge stronger from the current crisis. Both of them. The weight of each of them depend on the competencies to be reached in a certain subject, in a certain course. I would say that young students will prioritize face-to-face learning in order to learn certain skills, soft skills that you cannot learn through the computer, that you have to practice. Soft skills, working in teams, learning entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity, critical thinking, You have to learn that by practice with others. You cannot do it by yourself.
Yes.
But for older students, we have permanent courses for people 30, 40, 50 years old. Most of them prioritize online education because in principle, they've learned these soft skills previously, and they want to acquire a specific or technical knowledge for advancing their career or to change to a new job, and they prefer distant learning. So both of them are very, I think that's very reinforced during this time. Mm-hmm. From the research point of view, the pandemic has brought a quiet revolution in the way that researchers collaborate and disseminate their findings. I would say that COVID-19 has accelerated the trend of open science. And the number of international collaborations is growing more and more. And I think that it's a big step, a big leap that all research centers and universities, as we are observing in our universities, we are noticing that open science is, the demand of open science this last year has grown quite a lot. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you so much for sharing the very interesting angles. The quiet acceleration, I like the term. It's better remain this way. If we can bring it to the next level, it would be great. Can I address the same question to Walter?
Okay. Let's say I will start from a question that is often fell under my readings in the recent days. That is, what is the next normal after the COVID pandemic and the COVID crisis? And I think that a remarkable few characteristic of the pandemic is that this crisis is accelerating a structural change towards a, let's say, a digital economy, if I can say. And this involve, of course, also the sectoral education. So in my opinion, it is important, or it has some interest to consider what are the advantages of online learning and the disadvantages of the negatives of online learning. And as we see also from the presentation of this morning, we have seen that online learning can guarantee a major efficiency because online learning allows the use of a number of tools such as video, PDF, podcast, and the use of these tools allow to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of this lesson. And I would add also, considering what we have heard from the previous presentation, for instance, the use of the learning graph concept or the marketplace tools can allow a greater efficiency of the learning activity. Another positive of the learning, online learning is connected with the possibility for students to attend classes from any location of their choices. And so the lesson can be recorded, are stored and shared for future reference. Therefore, online offer a student opportunity to attend learning courses without the constraint of time or geographic location, as in the case of a face-to-face learning. Another positive of online learning is connected with affordability. Of course, we can easily understand that the cost for attending online learning is reduced with respect direct learning, and also the possibility to have the learning material available online give an advantage, because it is creating a paperless learning environment, which is more affordable and also beneficial to the environment. So it is important. Let me just mention another title, another couple of advantages or positive of online learning that refer to improve the student attendance, because they can attend the course according to their possibility. And finally, the possibility, let's say, to adapt our learning style according to the personal characteristic. Of course, we can mention also some negatives of online learning, and this refers to inability to focus on screen. We all know that it is a big challenge to be focused for a long time on a lesson, for instance, having the possibility to see other sites, access other topics, and so on. There are technology issues concerning with the availability of internet connection, especially in remote areas. And also, finally, I would mention as a disadvantage of this online learning, the need of having a teacher with a minimal basic understanding of digital form of learning. And I think this is not a so common condition in this day. I will stop here.
Thank you so much, Walter. I was jotting down a number of the topics that you brought up, and the list is long. So it looks like the longevity gene was unlocked for at least online learning, because there is this new concept of a longer shelf life of the courses and the ideas and the further propagation. I found it quite interesting. Thank you so much sharing your insights. Maybe the same question, if I can ask to Annelie.
Thank you very much. The colleagues already mentioned several crucial topics which are the positive and possibly also negative sides of the COVID situation, which we have had here over a year already. So I'm representing here the SmugGreenUp project, and we have there 6 universities who have been implementing smart grid related university modules during 2 lockdowns now. And I was very interested at what are the assessment results and how these students perceive the situation of having the situation where they are forced to have only online environment. And I was positively surprised that actually only a very few students mentioned that they really don't appreciate online learning. So coming from a country which is digitally quite advanced and has different digital tools and infrastructure available, and it was the case already before the COVID time, Estonia, I think that we really created together a future across Europe. I think that one of the main advantages of this unfortunate situation, which we have been living in over the past year, is that we have shown across Europe that online learning is possible. And we as a country have also supported our colleagues from other regions with online tools that can be used also at higher education level. So I agree that the situation has fundamentally changed the behavior across Europe. This enables now internationally collaborate and share the online tools. So we really need to look to the future, and I think that there is no way back. So the scientists are now analyzing all the results and takeaways and how to create a future based on the experience which we have gathered now. But I think that the future will be a mixture between physical and online learning tools, and let's see how we're going to shape it together with ASSET and Smart Greener project in the future.
Thank you, Annalie. And picking up on your point that there is no way back. So the question arises, what is the delta in terms of what should be prioritized and what should be carried forward? So maybe I can address this question to Francisco.
Sorry?
If I can ask you, building on what Annalie mentioned, that there is no way back.
Yeah, of course.
This is forward. So what should be prioritized now in the education for the energy system? So if we were shared the list of the positives and the negatives, so how do we take this and focus on something that can be carried forward within the ASSET context and beyond?
I agree with Annalie that there is no way back. But from now on, for universities, I think this is a crossroad that we have to choose both ways, as I mentioned before. Physical learning is important. There are another competencies that you cannot learn by yourself. Certain academic domains can be instructed by digital learning, as we have checked in this year very well, and it has certain advantages. The best teacher, the best professor can attend a huge number of students, and all of them can be attended by a great professor. But I think that the role of physical universities, not online, the physical universities, will be to explore more work, academic activities out of the room, out of the classroom. I mean, in developing challenges, participating in innovation, entrepreneurship projects, collaboration projects, going abroad to external practices. So these activities will be more and more relevant for physical universities, face-to-face universities. And there will be the great value, because the good knowledge in electronic engineering, what they teach, if you go to the web, you'll find hundreds of courses, very good courses of digital acquisition system, is what I explained better than me. The value to come here to the campus will be that you can put in practice and develop certain capabilities that will be impossible to develop by online learning. So both ways we have to work with. There is not we go only online, only physical. No, both of them has advantages, both of them.
Thank you. And I think we've this process posed also the innovation challenges to other industries. As mentioned by Walter, it's very difficult to spend hours and hours in front of the screen, and we've heard all the complaints about it before. So the challenge to the connectivity industry and to the telecoms is to accelerate the 5Gs, and we're all looking for the
probably the hologram and mixed approaches, but yet, as Francisco mentioned, also have this differentiator with the physical interfaces, which are complementary and with the narrow focus. Axel, I don't see you, but I could hear you before. Could you probably share your viewpoint on the same question? What should be prioritized in education for energy transition?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I understood that everybody else could see me, or at least I had the signal, but well, at least if everybody can hear me. Yeah, so I'd like to make an additional point besides these online courses, because we at Fraunhofer are looking a lot at the industrial needs and the industry as a large player, and how to connect and how to relate to the educational system. And indeed, we are talking about a large transition, not only of the energy system, but also all the different sectors which are interrelated. Which means that there is a large need for re- and upskilling, for new jobs or different kind of jobs. And translating that to the educational needs, that means in order of online coursing, this could be a benefit in the sense to have a larger throughput maybe in education. But on the other hand, we see that in concrete production facilities, like in batteries, in future also for hydrogen storage and so on, are developing, and we are talking also about European-wide hotspots, so certain locations where people will be needed in the future. That there will be maybe both needed a large throughput, need of online offers, but also the physical presence around such hotspots and production sites. And if you look at what the industry needs from the educational system, then we understand that it's very important to have this all over digital mindset. For example, in many cases, it's things like data analytics, which battery experts or energy storage experts need to have, but also the cross-sectional thinking, value chain thinking, and the systemic thinking. So we are talking not only about material science or production of energy storage or the application, but also development towards a full circular economy, including recycling, new business models. So all this understanding is needed. And finally, as I said, there will be hotspots and large facilities. There will be an increasing need towards the management of large and complex projects. So more complex thinking and knowledge of managers with let's say, concrete expertise skills background, but also, of course, with management skills will be needed in the future. So that's, let's say, somehow an additional point from perspective of what are the industrial needs from our perspective.
Definitely, the cross-sectorial, large scale, and cannot be emphasized enough, since in energy transition we have so many components, from the hardware to the connectivity to the generation assets, and the variety and the generation, the acceptance from the consumers, and many other aspects. So definitely I cannot agree more, not mentioning the production and the process that is taking place in Europe, going back to the industrial production, not only in the battery sector, but in the conventional technologies such as solar so very much needed. But I would like to focus now a little bit in the area that within the past decade, rightfully so, gained quite a bit of focus and came back full strength into the research innovation project, which is related to the its social sciences and all the facets of it. So I would like to address a question to Annalie, maybe. What is the role of social sciences and humanities in energy transition? So if that could be reflected a little bit in the context of what we've heard.
Thank you very much for this important question. The Smart Grid project is actually built on the principle that that engineering should be integrated with the social sciences and humanities. And this is also what we have really implemented through our study programs in the project. Our consortium is really convinced that actually technology is there to serve the people, not the clients, but the people. And also the people need to understand that what is research and industry up to if we talk about smart grids. And it's also vice versa, that the engineering education also needs other skills. Axel already brought up this topic that there are several skills which industry really is lacking maybe also today, and that should be considered. So when we had our survey among all stakeholders, then of course people working on the smart grid areas say that content-wise in the future, they need knowledge about cybersecurity, big data analysis, not only about how to get data, but also how to use data, power electronics, electrical power systems, energy management, and so on. But on the soft side, if I may put it like this, actually top answers were that project management and problem solving skills are the key to work in the future with smart grids. And of course, also interdisciplinarity was actually ranked the highest. So this is how we created the smart grid modules. So as first, we checked what are the needs of the industry. And our first master level module is about the role of artificial intelligence in smart grids. And second technical topic is connection planning in smart grids. But it is complemented by a module called economic operation and societal challenges. So this is our approach, how we proceed in university studies, but how we also talk to citizens and workforce that is currently operating in the energy industry. So our approach is to have environmental issues, energy policy, business models in the energy sector, cost and benefit analysis, benefits of smart meters for consumers, and also GDPR issues covered in our modules and continuing education courses. And of course, we also have a separate video lecture and course about the societal challenges and the role of consumer behavior. So I think that these are important topics which shape the future of the future engineering education. And also our assessment reports confirm that the students actually appreciate, although there is not much knowledge, pre-knowledge about those societal topics, they acknowledge that this is something they need to be aware of next to the project management skills. And we see that it really has been a breakthrough because the same topics, technological and non-technological topics have been included to continuing education courses as well. And for example, in Estonia, we managed to have those courses as part of our national re-education program for people who are looking for new opportunities on the job market. And so this is our approach to make smart grid understandable for people around, and also to educate the future engineers about all.
So it sounds, Annalie, that you already came up with the formula for the larger throughput that was mentioned by Axel, right? So if it's on the national level, so some lessons to be learned there as well. Thanks for sharing the insights, and building on what you mentioned. Another challenge is, of course, not only engaging the consumers, customers, citizens in the learning process, but also engaging in the energy transition new models and new roles that will be more and more strategic, important, and crucial for this energy transition. So my question to Sarah, if I can, what are the challenges in behavior change related to the local energy communities, cooperatives, and this new evolving models? Because we know what's happening in Europe right now is a strong attempt to unite the whole value chain, TSO, DSO, and the distributed grid. And so my question to you is, what some of the challenges that you can share with us? We can see
okay.
you, but
you can hear me? Okay,
yeah.
Thank you, Natalie. Well, the challenges and for the future, there's a lot to say about it. A few speakers mentioned the importance of the citizens, not only because we are paying in fact for the transition. That's in fact the situation in Belgium, but I guess in most other countries. But the citizens are in the first place important for the future to produce energy, to be an energy citizen. So that's also what the report of the Environmental Research Institute of Delft that shows some quotes for the future. They made they estimated the potential number of energy citizens for the future, and they're talking about almost 100 million energy citizens in 2030, and even much more in 2050. Then they're talking about 250 million energy citizens. So that's almost half. Let's say, in fact, this is what we can reach if the conditions are in place. So that means they're producing in fact almost half of the energy demand of Europe. Since the citizens, they're just individuals. As an individual, you cannot reach. Well, it's not easy to reach something. So the cooperatives represent, in fact, the citizens. And already today there is Rescope Europe, who is uniting all the cooperatives in Europe. And so they share the same vision for the future. As also mentioned earlier this morning, it's about a decentralized approach of the energy system. Democratic collaboration is very important. Inclusive system also, that's a very important one. So the cooperatives, they can help the citizens to launch projects, also the municipalities, in fact, because they have sometimes lack of time, lack of resources, also technical expertise. Mm-hmm. So this is what cooperatives already do today, but they have a big task for the future to do it even more. So, but a very important thing is that we have to get out of this COVID situation, because citizens, they have to meet each other. We have to talk to everybody, and you cannot do it on your own. You need a connection with others to start something. So let's hope it will come to an end soon, that we can go on. And about changing behavior, it's also an important aspect for cooperatives. We are working on informing people, educating, sensitizing. So there is also an important role. There was Lorenzo talking about changing behavior by changing infrastructure this morning.
Yes.
That's yeah, you have to force people to change their behavior. It's not so easy. If you talk about, for example, saving energy, that needs a lot of time. There are some good examples how you can reach something. For example, there is a method, a community-based social marketing method. That would be a very nice one. It means like that you are talking a lot to the people, communicating a lot very frequently, that you meet them, but also community-based, so that you, for example, send reports and you, and you compare it with the, for example, the neighbors or the community level. So you have kind of concurrence between the people.
Yes. So the models are there and the methods are there. The question is how to make sure that they can scale up. I think that remains still as a challenge.
Yes, indeed. So yes, we still have a lot of work to do.
Great, thank you so much, Sarah. I'm sure this question will resonate on many levels, and we'll go on. I would like to ask Axel, actually, now switching from the consumers to the industry, and just try to understand what is your opinion, how industry assesses the importance of the education, skilling and reskilling, and maybe just, you know, one area to throw out there. So the energy transition is not only for the citizens or for the industry, but also, for example, not only digital and renewable, but also introduces the new vectors, not so new, but for example, the green hydrogen. And we already see the lack of skills or massive need for the reskilling from the, from the oil and gas into the new vectors. So can you share your opinion on the importance and what's actually happening on the uptake of the education industry?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. Indeed, my opinion also is back up with two studies we recently conducted. One is on behalf of EIT Raw Materials, where we had an expert workshop with industrial players from the energy system, asking for their expression of needs along the value chain, here with a focus on the battery technology. But I think many points can be generalized or transferred to the broader energy system. And the other one is an online survey which we conducted by end of 2020 and until January this year. So exactly in this phase of Corona. And in this study mentioned before, we identified 4 main action fields for industry. One is indeed the re- and upskilling issue, first one, where the industry expressed that very specialized courses are needed, that internships are very important instruments, for example, in order to have exchange with the educational system, but also so-called platform projects, which can be dedicated, for example, on solid-state batteries or certain other concrete issues, where the collaboration between the educational system and industries is somehow developed. And some other backup we have from this online survey is we asked the industry to which extent they are doing this reskilling, upskilling, and recruiting, or these measures to and upskill first, in-house or by external means or with online courses and so on. And it turned out that so far industry is doing that mainly alone, in-house, or with integrating also external offers. And there will be a shift, which came out from the survey in the next few years, more and more towards using online courses and external offers. So it was about 10–20% compared to today, more towards use of such online courses. And the more it will be important that those are specialized courses which hit the benefit and the concrete needs of the industry. I mentioned some of the other action fields, which is the mobility of workforce in the future, of course, with respect to recruiting, to have, let's say, new staff at a certain location where it is needed. So it's connected, of course, to the hotspots. And also I mentioned before the cross-cutting skills which are needed and also are formulated from industries. They are coming from their classical fields and now also are faced with sectoral overlays and new challenges. And also I mentioned that the fourth action field is scaling to a circular economy, as we said. So the scaling effect, but also thinking along the full value chain. And so I think that's maybe are the main action fields and observations we made, and also how there will be a change of need from industries. So there will be an increasing need also to those external offers, and industry is facing that it cannot be done also in the future only by the companies by their own. Especially, maybe last point from my side, larger companies may be able to do that, but especially if we talk about small and medium-sized enterprises, they finally indeed need that help and cannot do that with their own resources.
Thank you so much, Axel. And I think there is also a lot that we can learn from these successful models that evolved within the the digital decades that we have. The digital nomads are very successful, and that's an example where the mobility of the workforce and the cross-cutting propensity towards learning is very much present. So we can also learn from these new models and see how these can be integrated in the challenges that we're facing. One more point to mention that there are lots of smart readiness indicators appearing, and that is an attempt to kind of to have the issue defined, and then within that the education process should follow on both sides, on the delivery of the services as well as on the consumer side of the services. So thanks for sharing the insights. I found the comment on the internships on the platform projects as the ones that you mentioned is important, and I think each of the areas of the energy transition will definitely benefit from it. So I saw in the comment Axel mentioned that in the short, it was Lorenzo mentioned that we have a short time left, or we have very condensed time frame for what we need to accomplish. So maybe I can address the question to Sarah and Walter as to what the communication needs are are in front of us as a challenge, and what can be done. So if I can start with Sarah.
Yes, what can be done? Well, Asad gives a good example. I think I know Sal already mentioned that you have to approach every stakeholder group in a different way. You have to know your public because they have different needs, different goals. So you need to adjust your message for every group. And that's what was defined in assets. Excuse me?
We need to do it faster as well.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's the challenge, I think. So, yeah, Walter, please, you can better answer this, I think.
I try. I am not an expert of communication. However, first of all, I would like just to give my thought about the topic, the question on the structural change in the economy from which there is no going back. And I would like to, let's say, share the opinion from Francisco, saying that according to my, unfortunately, old experience, the university is not important mainly because give you the possibility to attend the lesson, but because it allows you to grow as a person with interrelation with other people, with professors and so on. So that's first question, first consideration, small consideration. Referring to the question, the communication, I mean, in this framework is very important. Of course, the communication has to be different with respect either to the contents and to the channel used, depending on what is the target you are addressing your communication. I would take this opportunity just to stress my strong conviction, that is the importance of interdisciplinarity within the let's say, skills needed for the energy transition. And this is linked to the fact that energy transition is a policy problem which requires involvement of a very wide range of stakeholders, different stakeholders. And major economies have adopted the point of view that energy transition is yes, a technical challenge, but at the same time is also a social challenge. If we think to the role of the citizen, of the energy citizen, for instance, as you mentioned before, we cannot think that this role should be of a simple passive attitude, let's say social acceptance, but in the incoming future energy sector, the citizen is a fundamental actor of the energy transition. So that means that is very important, an activity that is addressed to increase the knowledge and the importance of the role of the final consumer that must evolve from a passive role as a simple consumer to an active actor of the energy like that connected with the role of prosumer, that is a subject that is consuming but also producing energy. And this change requires let's say, a behavioral change that need to be supported. And in this respect, it's very important understanding the so-called human factor of energy transition. And that is, I repeat, not limited to the social acceptance of the energy transition, but the willingness to use renewable energy, the willingness to participate in the energy efficiency action, and so on. So let's say the communication activity are strategic for, let's say, implementing in an effective way the energy transition. And every actors, every stakeholder has or play a very important role. Just to mention that within this project, asset project, I mean, we have implemented the 4 communication and dissemination campaign, each addressed to a specific target, and which each of them included specific content and specific channels adapted to the target addressed.
So it's not one solution for all, but it is all that matters in order to bring it forward. And thank you so much, Walter, for the insight.
It's exactly like the solution for the from the technological side. There is no one single solution, but it is needed a basket of multiple solutions that have to be implemented in order to achieve the final goal.
Yes, it's communication, it's the solutions, it's the platforms, it's the benefits and the goals that all matter together. Thank you so much. I think we're at the end of the panel discussion. Hopefully it enriched the vision and turned additional stones in the asset journey, so to say. And staying on the topic of together, so I would like to thank the panelists for the insights. I hope the communication will continue and the collaborations as well. And I think the organizers wanted to ask us to switch the cameras on, if possible, to take the picture of all of us together. And at this point, I'm gonna once again thank the panelists and the organization, and hand the floor to Nadia and Nelly, I think. Thank you.
So if I may comment, if I may jump in, the main evident outcome is that we are out of time. And this is because it seems that all the topics addressed in this event were very, very interesting. So this in turn can be interpreted in 2 points. First, we have to collaboratively work to efficiently address the challenges that we identified today. And second, asset seems that has a brilliant potential for sustainable results. So the asset partners, we should very carefully decide our next steps. I will not take more time. Thank you. Nadia?
Yes, thank you, Nelly. From my side, I would just like to express my gratitude to all the speakers and the panelists that joined today, and for your valuable contribution to our project's final event this morning. I would also like to thank all the attendants in our event because everyone helped to make it a successful event. And of course, is for the excellent organization. And we all hope you enjoyed our event this morning, and hopefully each one of you will take something from our project results presented today. Thanks.
Thank you, Nadia.